Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Elena. I love beauty and makeup, especially eyeshadow. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you my best colorful eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection. And also, I just want to thank everybody for the amazing support I've gotten on this channel so far. We did hit 200 subscribers. And with that being said, let me show you the best colorful eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection. So for the first palette we're going to start out with is the Too Faced Italian Spritz palette. And this is what the palette looks like. Super beautiful color story. Definitely something different than what Too Faced usually does. I feel like they usually do neutrals with the pop of color. But this is definitely colorful with a pop of neutrals. And I thought the formula of this was super good. Like, compared to other formulas that I've tried from Too Faced, I thought this one was super nice. It was definitely workable. And this palette is also very good for the summertime. I do have a look coming up with this palette, so stay tuned for that. But I thought this palette overall was just super good, and I'm glad that I have this in my collection. Next palette we have is the Heather Austin and Adep collab. And this is what the palette is looking like. Super beautiful. I love this palette so much. The quality is amazing. I think Heather Austin did such a good job. This is the only palette I do have from Adep Cosmetics, but I'm hoping to pick a couple more palettes up in the future just because the quality is just super good. Like, the shimmers blow me away. The mattes are super good also. And if you don't know, this palette consists of mostly duochromes and multichromes, and I love shifts so much. I also thought that the shimmers were very smooth, the mattes were very smooth, and overall, this palette I just enjoy so much, and I'm so glad I also have this palette in my collection. Then we have from Sigma the Alice in Wonderland palette, and this is what the palette is looking like. Super colorful. I feel like this is really the only colorful palette Sigma has done, and just letting you know also, they did come out with a cool neutrals palette, which I'm hoping to pick up in the future. But this palette is super good, the quality super nice. I feel like the shimmers, the mattes, play well in this palette. I have nothing bad to say about this palette. I thought Sigma did a super good job. I also thought this was such a cute collection too. And overall, the palette is just super nice, and I'm glad that I have this in my collection. Then we have the Soulmont 2 from Odins Eye. And this is what the palette is looking like. I love this palette. I love Odins Eye in general. I feel like Odins Eye do such a good job with their palettes. The quality is very good. I feel like it's super easy to work with. And this color story is definitely up my alley too. We have like the cooler side, and then we have the warmer side. And I just feel like overall this palette was super good. I felt like Odins Eye has definitely stepped up since they first started. And I just cannot wait to see what Odins Eye does in the future. So I'm just super glad that I have this palette also in my collection. Then we have from Odins Eye and Angelica Nikivis collab the Little Ghost palette. And this is what the palette is looking like. Super colorful, as you see. Angelica loves color, so I'm not surprised. And Odins Eye also did a wonderful job with this palette too. The quality is super good. I love the color story of this a lot. Now, there is a second palette to this collection, which I'll be showing you in a hot minute. But I feel like when you combine both palettes, you can make such amazing looks. And this palette overall has just been super good. I've used this palette quite a bit. I do have a video or a short on this. And I definitely think that if you like Odins Eye, and you like this kind of color story, that I would definitely pick it up. As far as I know, it is still available. And overall, this palette is just such an amazing palette, and I am super glad that I have this in my collection. Then we have from Odins Eye and Angelica Nikivis is the Trick or Treat palette. This is the second palette to that collection. And this is what the palette is looking like. Super colorful. I love the quality of this. I do like the other palette just a little bit more because I do feel like this palette is a little dark. But don't get me wrong, the quality is super nice. The mattes are nice. The shimmers are nice. And as I have said, I feel like if you combine both palettes, you can make such amazing looks, and Odins Eye did such a good job with this palette as well. So overall, this palette is just amazing, and I'm so glad that I have this palette in my collection. Then from Nomad, we have the Fedez de Prance palette, and this is what the palette looks like. I love this palette. I love Nomad as a brand. They are super friendly. The stuff they came out with is super good, and this palette is so nice. Now, unfortunately, you cannot get this palette anymore, but you can always shop your stash. I love shopping my stash just because it just gets me to use my palettes and also see what type of shades I have in my collection. I thought this palette quality was super good. The mattes, the shimmers are super nice. And overall, this palette just was super good. And I'm so glad I have this in my collection. And then the last palette I have in my collection that is the best colorful palettes is from Glamlite, the Cake palette. And this palette is what is on my eyes today. I love this palette. I thought Glamlite did such a good job. Now this palette is a little bit older and I did get it from Marshall's, but the look I made out with this is super nice. Now I will tell you though, I feel like the formula is just getting a little bit off just because it was a little harder with the shimmers. I felt like the shimmers were hard pressed, but really you just had to dig in there and the shimmers came out perfectly fine. And I think Glamlite also as a brand is just super nice. The stuff they came out with is super good. And this palette overall is just a nice palette. Very, very colorful. Definitely good for the spring and summertime. And I'm super glad I have this palette in my collection. Now this is all for the video today. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back with a lot more makeup content. Till then, stay beautiful, stay healthy, and stay safe. Bye.